My name is Phil Corbell. I'll start at the beginning again. I'm a volunteer with Sustainable Living in the Heatons. I'm also help run a charity based in Manchester called the Carbon Literacy Project. But I've been very lucky that over the course of this project, I've been helping facilitate the Heatons Youth Climate Commission. The idea of that is to get young people in the Heatons a voice in all of this. Stockport Council have just approved the Climate Action Now plan to bring climate action into the borough. And obviously it's not gone away as an issue in spite of the pandemic. Last Saturday, the Commission called witnesses, experts, leaders to talk to them. They heard what they had to say, answering their questions. And since then, they've been thinking about 3 recommendations they'd like to make to our MP, Nav Mishra, who joins us today. So what we're going to do is hear 1 recommendation from each of our commissioners. Nav's going to respond to that, and we'll see what happens in the course of the next year with those ideas. Before we start, can I just introduce the Commission? We're going to hear from Connie, who is a member of the Stockport Youth Council and has been helping prepare for the Greater Manchester Green Summit that starts starts tomorrow. Goodness. We're also going to hear from Hannah and from Willem as well, who were part of the event on Saturday. And we'd also like to say hi to Nav and thank you again for joining us. But what we're going to try to do is get through as much conversation between the young people and Nav. So I've really got to shut up and let the young people speak, which is the idea of this. Oh, before I go, sorry, I am going to shut up, but we're going to finish on an extraordinary poem on the theme of looking after our planet by a young resident, Beth, Whitehead. It's a beautiful poem with an amazing video made for it as well. So we're going to go out from the Heatons Climate Action Festival on that. But without further ado, let's hear the first of our recommendations. So Connie, you've got the first of the Commission's recommendations to put to Nav. Connie.
So our first recommendation is that Stockport convenes a Youth Climate Citizens Assembly with a group of young people from Stockport from a diverse range of backgrounds to give suggestions on climate action in our local area, and to then present this to a specially convened session of the council, which the local MPs will attend.
What do you think, Nav? That's an idea. Obviously, it's been trialled a bit by Parliament itself.
Yeah, thanks for that, Phil. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I apologise, I was supposed to be at a session last weekend, but at short notice I had to attend a funeral, so please accept my apologies. And it's wonderful to see all of you, and especially the young people who are putting forward the recommendations. I think with regards to the Youth Climate Citizens Assembly in Stockport, I think it's a really good idea. I'm a long-standing supporter of votes at 16 rather than 18, and I think climate change will impact our youngest people a lot more than perhaps people of my age, because the future is theirs. So I'm very supportive of that. I think any avenue people can use, people like myself, councillors, people in the community, any avenue they can use to encourage young people to get involved in local decision making, having a say in their community, having a say in how the world is run, how the town is run, is very important. So anything I can do to support this idea, I will do. I also think that climate change is the biggest issue facing humankind. So a lot more needs to be done, and we are obviously quite lucky in Stockport because we have organisations like Sustainable Living in Heatons and a couple of other organisations in our town that campaign on this issue. And the more young people we can get involved in the process, idea, I know it's been trialed in some other places in the world, and we've seen, you know, young people, I think Greta and a few other people from Asia, Africa, younger people, young women coming forward and campaigning on this issue, and it's inspiring to see that.
Connie, what do you think of what Nav's just said?
I think that's really great that you are enthusiastic about young people's voices on climate change, because it's really important that we have a say in our future.
Thank you very much. That's great. Nav, I know this is more pointed at the council perhaps as an enabling body for this, but what do you think you could do specifically to help get this rolling?
So, I mean, I'd love to take this up with the council, and you know, make the case to them that I attended this event, and young people have had a discussion and they've come up with specific recommendations, and I would be happy to lobby the council on behalf of local residents and young people to make this happen, you know, as soon as possible. So that's an action point for me, to make sure that I lobby the council and the leadership of the council to deliver this for our young people. Fantastic.
Thanks, Nav. That sounds really positive. Connie, is that okay? Shall we move on to the next recommendation, or I mean,
Phil, could I just make one more point? Sorry.
Please do.
And I think obviously these recommendations are excellent, but what I would say that this is not the end of the conversation. So when things return to normal a bit more, I'd love to meet your group in person, but also young people, and hopefully we can get things moving. And it's a changing conversation, and it's a not only a short-term thing but a long-term thing. So we need to make sure that we keep these people engaged, and any new proposals that come forward, we deliver them as well.
Thanks very much, Nav. We're, on the chat, we're getting some lovely comments. Ian Barker says, I like it, Connie, sounds like 3 more wishes. Which I think that's super smart, excellent. And Maggie Jones says, we're fortunate that the young folk are so passionate about climate change and wanting to ensure that change happens. Keep those comments coming in. We'll try to squeeze them in as time allows. Our next commissioner is Willem. Willem, who is actually beaming in from Edinburgh, having just started university up there. So I'm doubly glad you can join us, Willem. What's your idea?
Hello. First of all, thank you, Nav, for being here. It's really great to be able to speak to you about this as a local MP. My idea is something that has been used in various places around the country, which is something called Meat-Free Mondays. So it's an idea that in like schools and colleges, or like educational institutions that provide food for their students, that they encourage 1 day a week to not have any meat or like animal products in any of the food. Obviously, this has a great environmental impact, as greenhouse gases and a lot of other nasty pollutants are traced back to the meat and dairy industries. And then also building on top of that, I think if you don't have a system of sort of like education with it, then it can only go so far. So I think it's all well and good saying you can't eat meat on a Monday, but if the students don't understand why, or there's not a comprehensive sort of education, education promotion like used alongside that, then I don't think it would be as beneficial. So I don't know whether that would be sort of within the classroom, or probably easiest to do like within the classroom, or like within like science lessons, or kind of like integrate it more into the learning. Because I know from my own experiences that I've learned about climate change, I've learned about how the world is getting warmer, but if I don't understand how that impacts on my everyday choices and my everyday life, then I think like I said, it can only go so far. So I was just wondering what you think of that sort of initiative of trying to consume less meat in the diet, but like as a gradual step rather than completely like revolutionising how people are eating.
Thanks for that, Willem. I think with regards to this proposal, first things first, on a personal level, I'm a lifelong vegetarian. So I've never actually had meat myself because my parents brought me up as a vegetarian. So it's a bit easier for me than, compared to some of my friends who are big meat eaters. With regards to, I think, the food on our plate, I think more and more people these days are thinking about what they eat, where it comes from, the quality of the food, and perhaps, the ingredients of the food. So recently in Parliament, I've been talking a lot about making sure that our food standards in the UK don't reduce when we come out of the transition period after leaving the EU. So I don't want to see, you know, chlorinated chicken or beef with, you know, special hormones or whatever on available in schools and colleges and other institutions in this country. I think with regards to your point, William, I totally agree that if you force people to make changes, it's not sustainable and it's not long term. I think giving people the choice, giving people, you know, best quality information, education on these issues is the way forward. And I think, you know, people are thinking about where their food comes from, the miles that it travels, buying local, making sure we support local traders, and buying local food is becoming more and more important. Buying organic, buying GM free is becoming more and more important. And I think a lot of people are thinking about what factory farming does. There's obviously an issue about carbon emissions when it comes to factory farming on large scale. There are also issues, ethical issues that a lot of people have with the way these animals are treated and the quality of their life. So I think more and more people are thinking about what they eat and where it comes from. And I think we've seen a significant rise in the last 10 years in the UK when it comes to people becoming vegetarian, people becoming vegan, people giving up red meat or white meat or both. So I think it's an interesting time. I think schools, if they want to, you know, try things like meat-free Mondays, whatever, I think it should be done in consultation with local, you know, local elected bodies, school council, perhaps having a discussion with students. But that's something I definitely support. You know, getting people to think a bit more about what they're eating, where it's coming from, and the carbon footprint that their food is leaving, I think is a very positive thing. And you know, once again, anything I can do to help promote that idea within organisations, not just schools, but other organisations within Stockport, I will do. But as I said, on a personal level, I'm a lifelong vegetarian myself. So,
Willem, how does that sound to you?
Yeah, I think that's really positive, and I think, like you were mentioning, the idea of cutting meat out of the diet goes way beyond methane pollution and like emissions. It's things like GMOs and like unsustainable farming that is really important as well, to get into kind of the education system of why meat-free Mondays would be a good idea. But yeah, I think it's really exciting how it could be catalyzed by getting involved with like local bodies and stuff to kind of make it maybe not necessarily like a council-wide initiative, but maybe with like starting small and then growing big if it's a success. But yeah, I think it's a really good idea, and I'm glad that you feel so positively about it.
Thank you very much. There's so much more to talk about. I'm so sorry. I should have mentioned at the beginning, we're slightly going to overrun against the schedule in order to fit in a bit more discussion and fit in the poem as well. We'll be ending up at about 5:45, I should have mentioned, and opening up all sorts of, and some very approving comment coming in via the chat function as well. So thank you for that. Hannah, you've got the other recommendation. Before you start, Hannah, sorry, I should stress that the three commissioners discussed these three things between them. So it's a collective thing that each is presenting. Sorry to cut across you, Hannah. Go on.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, thanks for coming today, Nav. Very appreciative of that. I'd say one of the ideas that we were coming up with that we thought could be massively beneficial in the local area is the idea of converting lots of the rubbish bins in public places to include recycling options, particularly glass and metal, so that people can sustainably get rid of their drinks cans after they've been drinking whilst they're out and about. I think.
thanks for. Sorry, Hannah. Sorry. Please carry on.
No, I was just saying, especially at the moment, because people are meeting more outside and using these spaces even more, I think that this could be especially beneficial with stuff like how people are meeting up more outside.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Hannah. I think recycling is very important. I also think that of course individuals have a responsibility to make sure that they recycle, but I also think that we need to think about recycling on on a larger scale, because of course as individuals we can do all we can to recycle glass, metal, paper, cardboard, that kind of stuff. However, we've got a situation where we have corporations, not just in the UK but across the world, that produce vast amounts of rubbish, that produce frustrating levels of plastic and metal that's unnecessary. and that ends up in the oceans, or that ends up in some of the poorest countries in the world. So I think recycling is a very serious issue. And of course, in Stockport, what I'd like to see is more avenues available. You know, you see these black bins with the council logo on everywhere, but them to be converted into perhaps something that offers you the choice of glass, paper, and general waste. You know, I'd like to see that. I'd also like to make a point about recycling and how that affects the global south, because you might have seen documentaries or information on news outlets where, you know, electrical waste especially, but perhaps some chemical waste as well, ends up in, you know, in Africa and Asia, some of the poorest countries, and then that goes into the local water stream and impacts some of the poorest people in the world, and that's not acceptable. We need to make sure that we recycle things, of course, but we recycle them sustainably, and we don't dump them in some of the poorest parts of the world. So absolutely, I think the council is heading in the right direction in Stockport. However, of course, there's always more to be done in Heatons, but also all across Stockport, the entire town of Stockport, and across Greater Manchester. I'd like to see, you know, recycling being made easier, but also I think we need to look at the bigger picture, where we are not just targeting individuals, we're actually targeting bigger businesses, we're targeting employers to encourage them to recycle, to reduce the level of packaging they provide in their goods. And I think it's you know, we need to look at the entire chain rather than just looking at individuals. And I think with that, we need to achieve long-term change rather than just individual change in our own households in Stockport, because Stockport is of course part of the wider world, and we need to improve conditions for everyone to make sure that we have the best conditions here. So thank you so much for that, Hannah.
Hannah, what do you think of Nav's response?
Yeah, I'm so pleased that you're looking at this on like a massive scale and thinking about how it affects the whole world. Like, I think that's really impressive, and quite often people aren't grasping that. So I'm really pleased that you've helped to get that out there and to like educate the people watching this. Do you think that it is an achievable goal or a worthwhile goal to try and convert local bins into recycling bins, particularly in like parks and green space areas?
Thanks, Hannah. Yes, I definitely think that. I think that, you know, of course, with regards to what's happened over the last 10 years with local finances, things are challenging, but also because of coronavirus, the council's made millions and millions of pounds of extra expenditure. So it's not like the council has a lot of free cash available to deliver all these plans. However, I think some things are more important than others. And I think making sure that people have access to good recycling facilities is very important. Making sure that when you go out in public spaces, you know, those facilities are available is very important. So I don't think that we will achieve overnight change in Stockport, but Hannah, obviously with people like yourself and other people who are concerned about climate, but also our locality, we can achieve that, absolutely. I'd love to host the youth commissioners, but also activists from Sustainable Living in Heatons when things return to you know, normal in Parliament, in the next few months, and hopefully we can discuss this in more detail face to face.
Excellent. I have a mental image of our youth commission and Sustainable Living in the Heatons on the terrace overlooking the Thames, putting the world to rights. I look forward to that now.
The offer is there, Phil. The offer is there.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much for your time. I just want each of our commissioners to sum up very quickly on what they heard last weekend from Andy Burnham. Talking of food as well, Sarah Bridle, if you want to know more about the carbon footprint of food, the professor we had on last weekend was Sarah Bridle. If you look her up and climate change, her book is downloadable for free. And we are going to be talking to Colin Foster, Councillor Colin Foster, about taking ideas forward as well. But each of you, will go back round in that order, quickly sum up your feelings about the Commission so far. Connie.
I'm really excited of how we can take these conversations forward and start putting our thoughts and our ideas into action and actually change things.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Connie. Willem, your closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking the same sort of thing of like, it's really exciting to see how we can actually talk to people in official positions and sort of like give recommendations of like what we actually think now on a personal level, what we think would actually make a difference on a local level, because I think personally, I'm a politics student now, so personally I think that the most important on that, then I think it's really, it makes me feel very hopeful for the future and the change that we can create from a local level. Yeah.
Thank you. And Hannah, your closing thoughts.
Yeah, I am really pleased that we've managed to have this opportunity, and I think it's going to be a massive stepping stone, like not just for us, but for young people all over the local area, and hopefully like expanded across the world, that we can go forwards and have our voices heard and play a key part in our futures. And also just, I think I'm so excited at all the prospects you brought up. I'm really impressed with what you're saying, and hopefully we can do more in future.
Anything else to ask of Nav before we go? I'm sure it's only the beginning of the conversation. Nav's quite clear.
Yeah, it seems like you're quite on board with having us speak on like a wider level and getting our messages communicated to the wider communities. So a sort of idea as like a final request would be, do you think it would ever be possible for youth voices to be heard on a wider scale? For example, having statements by local young people like us, like our youth commission, that we'd be able to get read out in parliamentary positions or on stuff like the Prime Minister's question time.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you for that. Absolutely. I think I'm going to go back to what William said a few seconds ago about change comes from grassroots, and you know, a lot of change in this country, change that's tangible change that's improved lives for people, majority of people in this country, has come from grassroots rather than from Parliament or up above. So absolutely, I think the young people of today who are demanding action on climate change, better air quality in Stockport, better recycling, you know, thinking more about the kind of food we eat in Stockport, but across the world as well. Absolutely, I think those are the people in the future that will deliver all of those things. I also think that hopefully, you know, the Youth Commission from your group and specifically the three of you who've taken the time today to speak to me, in the future we'll see you in the council chamber representing your ward, or in the parliamentary chamber representing your constituency one day. So absolutely, I think it's really important that people, especially young people, think more about all these issues, because as I said, in my view, climate change is the biggest catastrophe that's facing humankind. So we need to make sure that there's a lot more is done, and this issue is front and center of any agenda.
Thank you very much indeed, Nav. And speaking on behalf of the Commission, we look forward to speaking to you further. It's been an extraordinary 4 days for the Heatons Climate Action Festival. The first, it was, we put it together because we felt a whole bunch of people wanted to do more about climate change, and its theme has been about practical action at an individual level, which is not to ignore the systemic side of things at all. But all I'd like to do is to point you, if you're looking at this, to the Sustainable Living in the Heatons website, slheatons.org, where recordings of all the sessions, extraordinary stuff you might have missed over the last 2 weekends, is held, but also lots and lots of pointers to practical things that you can do, tell your neighbours about, and turn the area into a place that can do much more, lead the way in Stockport, Greater Manchester, to do more about this. As Nav and the others were saying, it's a very urgent issue. It's not just about catastrophe. There are extraordinary benefits to be gained by action on climate change. We all want cleaner air, we all want warmer homes, and all of these things can come about by joining together to make action on this. As you can tell, I could go on about this. I'm not going to because time's really ticking away. I'd like to firstly thank Connie, Willem, Hannah. I also need to, there's been a background commissioner, Jess, has been helping with moderation and putting things together as well. Nav, thanks for opening the conversation. We look forward to more with you. Too many names to mention in terms of people who put the festival together. It's been an extraordinarily complicated thing to do. People have ploughed energy into this. So thanks to everyone behind the scenes that's put the festival together. And we look forward to one, hopefully in the flesh, at Prisonal School, where we're hopefully going to do this time next year. So stay tuned, as it were. That's enough. slheatons.org. Let me get that right. slheatons.org for further information. Now, thank you very much again. We've got something very special to end with. There's a local student, Beth Whitehead, who's written a poem. And if you've seen any of the video that have been produced for the festival, it's been put together by Ryan Cooper. He's made all the videos for this, and he's been very clear about his passion for all the issues here as well. You're about to see a premiere of this poem that Beth wrote. Beth says, "It was written with the hope that it would inspire listeners, viewers, to begin to really take notice of the climate emergency that we're faced with today. The thought of destroying such a beautiful planet is completely heartbreaking and can seem incomprehensible. However, I would like to urge people to recognize that this is our reality if we continue to ignore what is happening around us now." I would like this poem to encourage people to take the climate crisis more seriously and begin to make changes to their lifestyle, no matter how big or small they may be. I hope that everyone making greener choices, we're able to make a lasting positive impact on our planet. This is the poem by Beth Whitehead to finish the Heatons Climate Action Festival. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Picture your home, the place where you exist, the place you're always supported, keeps you going, gives you a lift, the place you'll reminisce about when you're old and grown, that well-known zone, that well-known home. Now picture your home is in danger, picture that it's at risk, picture you've been told that it's going to be set alight, devoured by flames, engulfed in a night. And as the fire flourishes, burning big and burning bright, your home is destroyed, can't take the fire's bite. Tomorrow your home will vanish. You'd be panicked, right? Obviously you'd see and do all that you could do. Take all the necessary precautions in order to undo. There'd be no uncertainty that it was an emergency. You wouldn't act carelessly, you'd act with urgency. You'd see and you'd take action. You'd shout and demand a reaction. Now picture our home, the place where we exist, the place we're always supported, keeps us going, gives us a lift. The planet we call Earth, home to wind, rain, ice and fire. A home for us to evolve in, a place for us to inspire, a home that we should forever treasure as a gift. Without Earth there'd be no us, we simply couldn't exist. Now picture that our home is in danger, picture that it's at risk. You'd still take all those precautions, right? Act smart, act brisk, or would you leave the panic for somebody else? Keep it optimistic, leave it as someone else's problem, because you can't be asked to fix it. Because guess what? Our home is in trouble. The fire has started to spread, but nobody seems to be panicking. Everyone's just turned their heads. Mother Nature is so gentle, and we have misused her. Our greed has made us overconsume and abuse her. She is at stake because of our mistake. Human impact stopping her from being intact. She is the cause of us, but will be gone because of us. And what is the point of shoulda, woulda, coulda, when we still have time for do, will and can? It's all going to be in hindsight if we spend our lives putting it out of sight. Out of sight, out of mind. But why don't we mind? Life is being obliterated. species after species being exterminated. In fact, at record pace, we have increased animal extinction by 10,000 times the usual rate. 30 football pitches of forest are destroyed in 1 minute. Temperatures are rising, the ice is so thin. It melts and causes sea levels to rise, so it really shouldn't come as a surprise that the capital of Indonesia has to be updated. Jakarta is drowning, a whole city evacuated. Unless we decide to stop our ways and revert, the Amazon rainforest will soon be the Amazon desert. Imagine your children never seeing the stars, because the air is too polluted from our overuse of cars. Or that they can never swim in the sea, because we were too lax, spent our lives carefree. If they did swim in the sea, there'd be nothing to see, because in the last 30 years we've killed half the world's coral. Our reckless gluttony is so clearly immoral. Just like the fire as humankind enhances new technology and scientific advances, Earth pays the penalty, takes the hit environmentally. But nobody is looking, nobody is hearing these facts and figures about our home disappearing, continuing our lives like nothing has shifted, ignoring screams from this world that we were gifted. Once she has gone, there's no Earth number 2, and it's not like online, can't backspace or undo. So we have to be kind to her, and we need to act fast. We're responsible for our future and must make up for our past. We need to rearrange our inhumane ways, campaign for change and clear this stain that we're leaving on our Earth, our home. We have to act now. There's no time to postpone.